Hello everybody and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well, and today I'll be giving a review of the new Michael Bay film Ambulance, which I got to see last night in IMAX. I have a lot of thoughts about this movie. Very few of them are good. Many of them are bad, but before going any further, please make sure that you smash that like button, light up that fire button if you're watching over on Odyssey, and also make sure that you are subscribed to the channel with that bell notification turned on. That way you know every time a new video or live stream goes live on the channel. So before getting into some of the things that I liked in this movie, I have to speak out about the thing that drove me the craziest, and that is that the cinematography for this film is utter garbage. So the cinematographer, apparently his name is Roberto De Angelis. I don't know what other films he's worked on. He doesn't have a Wikipedia page, so I imagine that he hasn't done much, just based off of, typically what, what the pages for Wikipedia do is they tend to, link to someone's filmography if they have a long list of things. But you can kind of tell that this guy has not worked on a lot of projects before. But man, oh man, the cinematography is complete garbage. And I say that because one of the reasons why I did not film a review last night, which is something I typically try and do, get my instant thoughts, my instant reactions to a film, is because I was feeling so sick by the end of the film because of how many handheld, shaky cam action shots there were. This movie is 2 hours and 15 minutes. So I don't mind longer films, but when I'm watching 2 hours and 15 minutes of a shaky cam action film like this, that uses it in such a really poor fashion to the point of making me, and I'm sure others, feel on the verge of being sick, that's not a good thing, especially when you have shots that not even just the shaky cam are the problem. You then have these insane close-ups of people where basically their head's not even fully in the frame. It's again, this weird framing. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever, while also being handheld and while also being shaky cam. And I guess the mindset that the cinematographer had working with Michael Bay was to try and get a more raw and visceral reaction, or more raw and visceral feeling to the film. But what it ended up doing was just ended up creating such a distraction that it was so hard to actually focus on the movie itself because of just how sickening the cinematography made me feel. I haven't felt this way really since the movie Pig. So if I'm looking for a comparison here, if you saw Nicolas Cage's film Pig, one of the reasons why I did not like that movie was because the cinematography was not good, because there was a lot of this excessive shaky cam. And for that film, it made even less sense because it was not a action film, and because it was something that, again, really distracted away from the amazing performance that Nicolas Cage did. The same thing can be said for this cinematography as well. It just distracts away so much from whatever story there is, which again, I think has some good parts to it, has some not so good parts to it, but whatever is there gets so distracted, and you get so distracted by the shaky cam cinematography. And again, some people might actually get an actual physical feeling of sickness, especially if you don't do well with shaky cam films, that it just was really bad. It was really, really bad. And me and the few other people that were actually in the theater, as this film is not doing very well, I can kind of understand why now. Post-Track had posted saying that around 70% plus of the people who saw the film said that they liked the movie, but only about 60% or so would actually recommend the film. And I can kind of understand that, because if a lot of people saw this film opening weekend in IMAX and saw this opening film and had the same experience I did, I could see why they would like certain aspects of the film, especially the story and some of the acting, whereas the actual experience of the film itself, especially with the cinematography, and they may not even understand exactly why they felt the way that they did, might have actually left them feeling kind of sour and saying, yeah, I don't know if I'd recommend this to anyone, because I just sat through 2 hours and 15 minutes of a very long, meandering story, while at the same time also being put through this shaky cam nonsense as well. So I just wanted to get that out of the way, because it really is a major problem, and I just hate when any film uses an excessive amount of shaky cam like that, and especially when it is done poorly. Again, I think that there are times when it makes sense, there are times when it does work, but this was just not one of those times. Again, you don't do it for 2 hours and 15 minutes straight and expect for the film to be okay. And so I think that was one of the bigger problems that this film had, was cinematography. So again, Roberto De Angelis, I don't know what school you went to, but you might need to go back at this point, unless Michael Bay told you to do every single thing that you did and he framed every single shot for you, because then Michael Bay just needs to retire at this point if that's what he's going to produce as far as the visuals of the film itself. The other visuals, actually, as far as the visual effects, a lot of it is practical. So for a $40 million budget, I was actually quite impressed by what they were able to do, especially when, as I mentioned before, about an hour and 45 minutes of this film is a car chase. So if that's something that appeals to you, then you might actually like this film. If you don't mind shaky cam, or if it doesn't bother you as much, then you might be okay. But an hour and 45 minutes or so of an actual car chase is a bit on the excessive side, at least for me. But at least the visual effects there actually looked pretty good and actually worked for the most part. There were a couple of sequences that were CGI, and you could tell they were CGI. But again, for $40 million, you're kind of like, yeah, I can see why you might have. Yeah, I know. River does not like bad CGI either, but I can understand why they would not be able to spend as much on that. As far as the actual story is concerned, as I mentioned, there's some good parts, and then there are some not so good parts. So I really like the character arc of the of the paramedic, so the female paramedic who is featured throughout the film. I liked how she starts off as like this independent, doesn't do well with partners, only cares about the job, like literally will pretend to be the person's friend as she's helping them. And then once they get to the hospital, she looks at her time, makes sure that her timing is good, and then leaves, and then just forgets about the people that she's working with. Now, I understand that actually it works for a practical level, because if a paramedic especially, and I imagine anyone in a medical field, if you were to care so much about every single person and every single patient that you see in a given year, you're talking about hundreds of lives potentially that you are now linking yourself to, and the emotional impact that that can have. So I can understand why that character would have been so shut off to so many of these typical human emotions that we have as far as empathy towards others. But it's interesting just to see the journey that she goes on through the course of this film. Probably the best character arc, though, is definitely between the two brothers. So in this film, you have the two Sharp brothers. So you have Danny Sharp and also Will Sharp. And so Will Sharp is an adopted brother to Jake Gyllenhaal. Jake Gyllenhaal's character, Danny Sharp, though, again, they've been brothers since they were kids, and so therefore he's his brother. And so there's actually a couple of moments in the film where it's interesting, because there's you don't look like brothers, and then Jake Gyllenhaal is just like, what did you just say? And he kind of like freaks out, because he's like, I don't care. Like, he is my brother. It's like, basically that family is more than blood. I actually really like that story. I like that dynamic, because it does spring a lot of truth to it, right? I think about our friendships, think about our family, and we know that family is indeed more than just blood. It is about our relationships. It is about the people that we know, the people that we trust, etc. And so I think that relationship between those two was really, really good. So Danny Sharp's character goes through an interesting character arc where him and his brother Will are trying to constantly fight basically this image that was kind of left and impacted by their father, who was a bank robber as well, and just the impact that had on their life. And so Danny Sharp's character is basically trying to move away from and not be like his father, while at the same time saying, I can do it better. Basically, like moving in that direction. Whereas with Will Sharp's character, his is, I don't want to be like my dad, and so therefore I'm just going to reject it completely, join the army and things like that. And so I thought that dynamic was actually really, really good. And Will Sharp especially goes through a very interesting arc through the course of the film, which I, for the most part, actually really liked as well. And I thought the performances were pretty good as well. So Jake Gyllenhaal is, of course, always very for lack of a better expression, sharp, is always very solid there. Yahya Abdul Mateen, I haven't really seen or heard much from him before, but I thought he did a pretty good job for the most part. There were a couple of sequences where the emotional aspects weren't nearly as well captured, but I thought that he actually did a pretty good job for the most part. And then they had Cam Thompson, who was the EMT on board, and for her by Isa Gonzalez, I guess is how you would say her name. I thought that she was okay too. You can kind of tell, at least for me, from my perspective, she came across as more of a green actress. Yeah, I know, River, it just becomes obvious sometimes. So there were certain sequences where I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of just, either a phoning it in performance, or you're green and you're still kind of getting to know, the lay of the land, as it were. And I thought that she did a decent job in certain moments, especially I think as the course of the film went on, it's like she got better. So maybe it's one of those things where maybe working with someone like Michael Bay or working with Jake Gyllenhaal, maybe she was able to pick up some things. And it looked like, again, at least over the course of the film, that she got a little bit better over that. So the screenplay by Chris Fedak, I thought, again, was fine. It was okay. Apparently it is based off of a previous work, so it's an adapted screenplay. Thought it was okay as far as the actual story is concerned, but really the issues that I have with the film, I really do think outweigh the good. Again, the shaky cam cinematography is something that you just can't avoid, because it is the film. People, I think, oftentimes don't take cinematography nearly as seriously as they probably should, and how cinematography itself can be almost a character, can be such a crucial point and aspect of a film. Think about how a long opening shot or a one take can have such an emotional weight on a story, can have such an emotional weight on a certain sequence of events. I think back, for instance, last year, Wrath of Man, there's this brilliant opening sequence where there's this long fading in shot of this entire, basically this one cut, as it were, at least it's shot as a one cut of the actual robbery that's happening in the opening sequence. And it's such an impactful thing because you're seeing all of these things play out in front of you, and you're forced to look at it because there's no quick cuts, there's no quick edits, and so you're just forced to have your focus right there. Whereas with this film, it's literally like every 2 seconds there's a cut, there's a shaky cam, and then it's so hard to kind of keep track of the things that are going on. And when you're doing that over a 2 hour and 15-minute film, it just, again, is sickening, like physically sickening, to the point where I got home and I was like, I got into my car actually, and I was like, I can't do this review. I need to get home as quickly as possible, because I think it was like part of the reason why I was not feeling too well. But overall, if I had to give this film a grade, I'm gonna have to give this film a C-. And again, I think that there's a lot more here that people will be able to kind of hold on to and enjoy. As I said, the story definitely has some really good, interesting elements to it. It's not the most original of storytelling, however, and it's definitely not one that I think is doing anything new or revolutionary. There are a couple of moments as well that some might deem as, woke or political, but I don't really think that they, really pushed it all that much. And it was just kind of like oh yeah, by the way, this character happens to be this, or this character happens to be that, which to me is just like, it is what it is. But yes, I'm gonna have to give this film a C- because cinematography is complete trash. The story is decent. Direction, again, if a lot of that was in the cinematography, then it would be trash as well, but at least they were able to get some decent performances out of some of the people that are involved in this project overall. So Michael Bay, I can understand why this film isn't doing very well, and again, I can understand why there are people that enjoy this film but are not recommending it, because again, if you're seeing this film, maybe it's seeing it on the bigger IMAX screen, maybe this is a film that would do better on television. I don't know. All I can speak about is just my own personal experience with it, and so I'm gonna give this film a C-. So what are y'all's thoughts? Have you seen Ambulance? If you have, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you like this video, smash that like button, slap that fire button on Odyssey. You're all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, God bless. And now for a huge shout out to all of my April Patreon, Subscribe Star, and Locals members. Starting off with Patreon with Animation Commentator, Brandon, let's go Brandon, Brian P., Christopher Bowman, Father Christopher Miller, Hail to you, Father, Father Damian Cook, Garrett Searles, Harold Francis, Hymir Ari Hymeson, Inflamed Wood, Jacob from Holland, Jeff Toon, Joe Horn, Jonathan Carney, Gomer Kyle 79, Laura, the Modern Major General Story, Mike Jackson, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mondo Spieler, Mr. Peabody, On to June, Orange Hat Reviews, Priscilla Hall, Rosella Allen, Stan Andrian, Miss Martin Muses, Theodore Bendon, Tina Bojan, and Tina B., the Empress of the Universe. Thank you very much for supporting me over on Patreon. And also to my Subscribe Star peeps, Matt317, Storm Tracker, The R, Fast Reaction, Nosferatu Gatsu, Stand 4, John B., Mr. Roy, Glinzer, J. Alice McCarthy Jr., Dean Heiss, J-Rod the Beer Guru, and ZK Man. And also a huge shout out to my Locals members, starting off with Kara Tharp, K Tharp 56. Also, UAB, Mad Dog, Mike Jackson, Robert Barnes, and also a huge support as well to Brett D90. Thank you very much for supporting me over on Locals. Thank you again to everyone for supporting the channel. Please, if you want your name shouted out at the end of every live stream and video, go ahead and check out the top link at the video description. It is my Willow link, as I like to describe it, and it brings you to a link tree where you get access to all of these different locations, as well as all of the various social media platforms that you can follow me on. If you join at the Citizen of Asgard level, you get your name shouted out at the end of every single live stream and video. Army of Asgard level gets you that, plus you get access to a giveaways channel that I have on Discord. If you ever don't have access to that giveaways channel, please contact me. I do send out the link to the Discord and with the instructions on it at the beginning of every single month. But if you don't have access to that giveaways channel where I'm giving away 4Ks and Blu-rays and all that kind of stuff, as much as I possibly can give away is available there. Please just reach out to me and I will gladly walk you through the process to make sure you get access to that giveaways channel. And again, that is, Army of Asgard level, whether you be on Patreon, Subscribestar, or on Locals. Also, if you are the keeper of the Bifrost level, you get access to all of that. Plus, you get access to a podcast that I do with John the Flick Pick Flickinger. We try and do it once or twice a month. I think we're going to try and do it twice this month to make up for some miscommunication that we had last month. So be on the lookout for that, and look out for those podcast Q&A posts that are always available on the Patreon main page, the Subscribestar main page, on the YouTube side of things as well. The YouTube community tab, you'll always find the podcast Q&A there, and also on the Locals page as well. And if you join at the Chosen of Valhalla level, the highest of the levels, you get access to all of that. Plus, if it's your first month, you get a free t-shirt, any t-shirt you want from my Teespring, my TeePublic, whichever one you want to get it from. You just let me know the size, location I'm sending it to, color, that kind of stuff. You get it sent to you. Plus, you get to be featured once a month on the Chosen of Valhalla live stream, where we all come together and just talk about movies and really anything the Chosen want to talk about, and it is a lot of fun. Anyway, thank you all very much for your love and for your support. You guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless.